Warning: although this podcast revolves around Disney, Disney movies, and Disney-related themes, we have a tendency to use mature language which is not suitable for all ages. Discretion is advised.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Ocho and Ortiz Disney podcast. On this week, we are doing a movie that I didn't think that I would review, especially after I swore up and down last year that I would not do a review of this. We're going to do Halloweentown. Let's get this thing started. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Ocho and Ortiz Disney podcast is back in your life. And happy Halloween. This is our Halloween episode. So happy Halloween to everybody. Also, happy Thanksgiving. We are recording this the weekend of Canadian Thanksgiving, and it's being released a couple weeks before American Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody that chooses to celebrate Thanksgiving. Like I said off the top, we are doing Halloweentown. Josh, this was your pick. It's my pick from a year ago. Yeah, from a year ago that I watched and I absolutely hate it. And I swore up and down we wouldn't do a review of it. But here we are doing a review of it.
I got to pull up my text messages with you, Dave.
Yes. Yeah. Because I wish you could pull up the ones that from last year too, because I had some text messages for you last year when I was watching this, and of course I have some again this year. Mm-hmm. But before we get into that, I want to thank once again Justin for being on our last episode where we reviewed the Haunted Mansion, sticking with the Halloween theme this month. So again, very, very special thanks to Justin. And again, apologies to Bob, because on that episode, I said Justin was our second guest on the episode on the podcast after Timmy, Britt. And it was pointed out to me that our friend Bob from the Cretans Guild has been on this podcast as well. It was
numerous times.
One of the very first, I think it was actually the second episode that we ever did. We had Bob on, and I
think so.
I completely forgot about it. So apologies to Bob for that one. But be sure you're checking out both guys. Check out Justin. He does Epic Tales from the Sewer, which is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles podcast, as well as a podcast called Geek Life HQ. So be sure you're checking those out, and be sure you're checking out the Cretans Guild from Bob. And Bob also has a YouTube channel. I believe it's Skipper Bob, where he covers all things Disney. Well, not all things Disney, but he does a lot of Disney on that channel. And then, of course, for us, be sure you're following us, guys. We are available on social media. We are available on Twitter at Ocho Ortiz Disney, Instagram at Ocho Ortiz Disney Pod, and Facebook.com/Ocho and Ortiz Disney Pod. And sorry, Instagram is at Ocho and Ortiz Disney Pod. I forgot to put the ad. I forgot to put the "and" in there when I said it. And of course, you can check us out on most major podcasting platforms. We're available on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and of course, Podbean, Ocho and Ortiz DisneyPod.podbean.com. You can help support the show by getting some merch. Shop.spreadshirt.com/Ocho and Ortiz DisneyPod. Or you can go to our Teespring store. The link to that will be in the description below. Or you can become our patron on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/Ocho and Ortiz DisneyPod. You can become our patron for as little as $1. And of course, we have a YouTube channel, so be sure you check out our YouTube channel as well. Just search for Ocho and Ortiz Disney Podcast. But the best way you can help us for free is just by listening to the show, watching the show on YouTube, and sharing it with your friends and following us on social medias. Be sure you're leaving us likes and comments or thumbs down. I don't care. Leave a thumbs down. Also, leave a comment because the comments help us out more than you guys know. Now, as I said off the top, we are reviewing Halloweentown. But before we get into that, we do have something very, very special. We did a pre-recorded interview with Timmy Britt. We welcome him back on the show, and he's going to tell us a ghost story or two. So having said that, enjoy these ghost stories from Timmy Britt. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, we have a brief interlude with Mr. Timmy Britt. We're welcoming him back to the show. He's got the mood setting. He's in complete darkness right now. The light's going on and off, which is going to.
I don't know why. Let me turn the light back on. Maybe
it's
it just wasn't picking.
Well, I think.
Wait, turn that one off.
I think it's going to be.
Keep it off.
I think it's going to be perfect because you are here to tell us a ghost story or two. So I think the lighting going on and off actually fits perfectly. First of all, welcome back. We always
Thank you.
love seeing you, Timmy. We always love
Yeah, you guys are crushing it too. By the way, I'm so happy.
Oh, thank
I even
you.
posted on Instagram today that I was going to do this with you. So
Oh, awesome! I haven't been on Instagram yet. Other than
I didn't tag anybody in it, but it's there. Yeah.
And I just want to get this out of the way before you go into the ghost story, because even though this is being released on Halloween, we're pre-recording this. Your birthday is going to be on October 25th. So a very happy birthday to you.
Thank you, man. That's really nice of you. Thank you. It's a big day.
But we are here today to talk about ghost stories. And I was very excited when I got messaged about this. I love ghost stories. So Timmy, the floor
I wanted to tell somebody, and I thought, I'm going to my buddies Ocho and Ortiz because I'm only going to tell it once. But it's a true story, and it really happened to me. And
well, we are extremely honored that we're the ones that you decide to share it with. So
I love you guys, man. You guys are family. You guys do a great job, and you're always real with everybody. And you don't, you're not posers. You're just real guys and trying to make, your way through life, just trying to entertain other people. And to me, that's just magic. So I believe in you guys. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate.
All right. So can I start?
Absolutely. The floor is now yours.
Okay. So I haven't told the story in 15 years. And then it was in Celebration, Florida. I was sitting at a rocking chair telling my best friend, a girl named Charlotte at the time. I told her the whole story, but that's the last time I told it. Before that, I hadn't told it for maybe another 10 years. So I've only told it once in the last 25 years, but I remember it as if it was yesterday. So I don't have any problem recalling it, but here's how it starts out. Okay. So when I was born, when I was like 5 years old, my parents, my mom and dad, had a little apartment, and it was never going to be big enough. It was 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1 kitchen, 1 living room. That's it. It was a tiny little apartment. So my mom falls pregnant with my brother Matt, and my dad starts looking for a house. And I'm a little kid, but as I get older, I realize, my dad tells me, "Hey, I took that house because I got it for a steal." He got the house for like $19,000. That's what he bought the house for. Like, you can't even get a car for that much now.
No, not these days.
So I didn't pay any attention. Yeah, not these days. No, you can buy, a couple tires with that kind of money. That's it. I'm sorry. So let's get into it. So we move into the new house. Now it's 3 stories, a basement, a first floor, and a second floor. There's only 1 bathroom in the whole house. And on the 3rd floor, there's the back bedroom at the top of the steps, a middle bedroom, which was so tiny, my mom used it for a sewing room, and then my parents' bedroom. In between the sewing room and my parents' bedroom was the bathroom. I need to tell you these things. As we go through the story, it'll make sense to you. So I remember I was about 9 years old, and I hear the door slam at the front of my house.
Yeah.
And then I hear my dad screaming. And then I hear my mom in the kitchen, which is right below me. I'm sleeping up in my room with my brother now. And my mom doesn't curse. She doesn't say bad words. I've never heard her do it. But this night, I hear the door slam. I hear my dog barking. And then I hear my mom and dad screaming and fighting like I've never heard them before. It was so bad. Pots and pans are being thrown. I mean, it was a horrible, horrible fight that they're having. And my dad had just come back from the bar across the street, so he was probably drunk. Anyway, it's so scary to me now as a 9-year-old boy hearing my parents fight like this, especially my mom. Hear my mom scream and yell. I was terrified. Exactly. So I decided to get out of my bedroom and go out into the hallway to the top of the steps and listen. Now, I can't turn on the lights or they'll know I'm there. So I'm standing there in the dark at the top of the steps. And out of my mom's bedroom walks this woman, and she's walking down the hallway, and I'm rubbing my eyes because I'm like, there's no way. This is not real. So she just keeps coming though. And she's getting closer and closer and closer to me. The one thing I remember about her mostly was though, where her head was supposed to be and where her feet were supposed to be, it didn't tune in. It was like energy. It was like this white shape. And I could tell it was a woman, and I could tell she had on a nightgown, and she was walking very casually kind of towards me. And all of a sudden now I didn't hear my parents anymore. That fight that got me out of bed to give me me so scared. Suddenly I didn't hear it. That
I-
didn't matter.
I'm
Because now
I'm
walking
just-
down
I'm
my
just
hallway.
Curious, and sorry to cut you off. I'm curious. Did she?
No, it's okay.
Did she appear more as like a solid object, or was it more like a vapor?
Well, did you ever turn your TV to a channel that wasn't a channel?
Yeah,
And you see
get
the little
snowy-
black and white dots?
Yeah.
She was just like that. It was like just like that. It was like, I'd have to say it was white and gray, but it was kind of cloudy and it was like energy. It wasn't really like solid at all.
Yeah.
But it was solid enough that she could contain her form, and she just walked right down the hallway right towards me. I'm a 9-year-old little boy. I see this woman walking down my hallway. Again, she had no head and she had no feet, but I could tell that it was a woman. You know, you can tell.
Yeah.
And so as she's getting closer to me, I'm 9 years old. I just start swinging at it because I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I turned and ran into my bedroom and woke up my brother and said, I think I just seen a ghost. Okay, so the next day happens, and now I'm telling my friends. But before that happens, my dad says, come on downstairs. I want to tell you something. He sits me down on the couch and he says, me and your mom had a pretty bad fight last night, and it won't happen again. And I'm real sorry. I had too much to drink, and me and your mom have been fighting about some things. It all came out, and I'm sorry that it had to wake you up.
Yeah.
I said, well, that's okay, Dad, but I have something to tell you. I saw a ghost last night. And he said, no, you didn't see a ghost. You were terrified of your parents fighting. And so your brain did that to protect you from what you thought you were hearing.
Yeah.
And it all makes sense. My dad didn't want to hear about the ghost. So I said, okay. I went outside and told all my friends I saw a ghost. I didn't care what he said. I know what I saw. So we flash forward a couple of years now. And now I'm like 12 and I'm down the basement and I'm putting clothes from the washer into the dryer, just a normal thing. And all of a sudden I see this dog run into the front part of the basement. But my dog is like a mutt and he's brown. And this was the same color as the woman. And it ran into the basement. So I didn't see it, the front part of the basement where the oil heater was. Mm-hmm. It's all in my basement, you know, this is an old house. But so I'm like, did I just see that? And I walk over and I look and there's no dog. I'm like, man. So I go up to my parents. I said, now I just saw a dog in our basement. And they're like, will you stop it? You know, knock it off. There's no ghost here. And I'm like, well, could it have been Holly, our dog at the time? And they said, no, Holly's here, right here next to us. And she never moved. I said, well, I saw a dog and I'm telling you, it was the same color as the ghost. So my dad says, you know, you just don't want to do your chores and you're aggravated. And so your mind's just trying to get you out of it. You know, he's always making excuses.
Dismissing it completely.
He continues to do that. My dad is not a dreamer, by the way. He was a sheriff, a lieutenant in the sheriff's department of Philadelphia. So he has no nonsense.
Yes.
You know, he got the house for 19 grand. He grabbed it and said, okay, and I can build a family. It was a block away from school. We had a deli right next door to us, Greenman's Deli, famous deli in Philadelphia. Hoagie's like this big. Seriously, it was amazing. So now I see a dog and I see a woman. Okay. 3 years later, now I'm 15 and I'm supposed to go out skating with my friends and I can't wait. But I had chores and I put them off for 3 days. I let my kitchen sink fill with dishes. It was so bad. I'm so embarrassed to tell you that. But
I can't imagine.
I was 15. I didn't want to. So my dad waits for me to get all ready to go out to see my friends. And he says, guess what, hotshot? I said, what? He goes, you're not going anywhere till them dishes are done. I'm like, Dad, I got to meet, Paul and George and Frank. He's like, I don't care who you got to meet. If you got to meet Jesus Christ and Santa Claus, I don't care. You're doing them dishes. So now my house is straight through. It's a living room, then the dining room, then the kitchen, straight through. So there's no angles. It's a straight through thing.
Yeah.
So I can look out of the kitchen and see my front door, even though it's 2 rooms away. It's a straight through thing. So I'm in the kitchen doing the dishes. And my dad's on the couch 2 rooms away watching TV. And he doesn't get up for nothing, my dad. He's got his beer in front of him. He's got his remote in his hand. He's worked all day. He's not moving from that spot. So he says, go do the dishes. So I'm like, oh, rah, rah, all grumbling and rah, I'm so upset. And, I'm an idiot. So I go and I do the dishes and I start doing them. And I feel 3 really powerful taps on my shoulder.
Yeah.
So I turn around. I'm like, what? I'm like yelling at my dad because I was so mad that I couldn't go out with my friends because I thought I was all Mr. Cool Guy and stuff. And now I had to call them all and say, oh, I can't make it, So I'm all mad. And I say, what? I turn around and there's no one there, Ocho. But I felt it on my shoulder. So I'm looking up on the roof thinking maybe I splashed water and the water dropped down. Nothing. So I lean my head out and I go, did you just come in here and tap me on the shoulder? And my dad says, one more interruption and you're not going out. Do the dishes and keep your mouth shut. Of course I didn't come out there and tap you on the shoulder. Knock it off. So now I seen a woman, I seen a dog, and now I get tapped on the shoulder. So I'm like freaking out.
Yeah.
3 years go by. Now I'm 18 years old and I'm not supposed to be drinking, But I went out and I got drunk one night. And I came home at night. Now, ever since I saw that woman in my hallway, I've never gone up the steps from the living room into the upstairs without reaching over the banister and turning on the hallway light.
Yeah.
Because there's no way, like, I don't care how I'm 55 years old in 2 weeks, and I will still, if I was in that house, would still turn on that light. I never want to see that again. It was, it was so frightening and so real. Right. So I decide, well, I don't care about this ghost. I'm going to go, I'm all drunk. I'm 18. I think I'm invincible. And I decide it's time for bed. So I'm going to, I'm an idiot. So I decide I'm going to run up the steps and just go to my room. But now I have a second brother. So there's 3 of us. So I have the little tiny sewing room my mom gave up for me. And my 2 brothers are in the back room. But Ocho, as I started running up the steps, suddenly at the top of the steps, the same woman, same color as her, was at the top of the steps, but now it didn't have the shape. It was like angry at me, or it was just really not happy, I guess, because it couldn't couldn't contain its shape. The energy was big, like a ball and thick,
Yeah.
But it's moving, man. It is moving so fast that I can't stop myself. So I'm running up the steps. This thing appears at the top of the steps and comes down, and I go right through it. And as I did, all I felt was the most intense cold I've ever felt. And I could see out of my peripheral vision that I wasn't through it yet. It was like a ball, a big, massive ball of like energy or whatever. I don't know what to tell you, but I could tell that it wasn't normal. And as I was running all drunk, I ran right through it, and it came through, and it was so cold. I went straight into my brother's room and woke them both up. I'm like, oh my God, I just seen it again. Now, this is since I'm 9 years old. Now I'm 18. That's 9 years of little things happening like that. Yeah. And no one else can see it. So I start dating this girl, and her mom was really kind to me, and she loves angels. So it's around Christmas time, and I say to myself, well, I don't know what to get her, but I go to a bookstore. She's always reading every day, another book about angels. Find a book about angels, and I'm wrapping it for Christmas for her. As I open up the pages, I start looking at it, before I wrap it. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. There's little illustrations and stuff. There's one section on ghosts. And in the section, it said, if you've ever seen a ghost, a real ghost, anyone will tell you they have no head and they have no feet. And if you're unfortunate enough to ever touch one of them, you will experience nothing but an Arctic cold. So now I got chills because that's exactly what I saw. Yeah, she had no head, exactly, she had no feet, and she was freezing cold, man, right? So I'm like, oh, man. I almost didn't want to give it a book so I could show everybody, look, this is what I saw. This is whoever wrote this book gets it, man.
Yeah.
So I give her the thing, and everything's fine. Now I'm 21 years old, and I'm at a bar, and I'm sitting down at a bar, and I went to a Catholic school, but there's a public school right across the street. So in the neighborhood, you're either in Catholic school or public school, but we all knew each other. It was a small little row home, 300 kids in a square mile radius, or even more than that, really.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting at the bar, I'm 21, and now I'm allowed to be there. And right next to me is sitting this guy named Michael Gleason. And he says to me, hey, man, my name's Glitty, is what he called himself, Glitty. And he goes, I live around the corner on House Street. I said, oh, yeah, I live right on Robbins, right next to Greenman's. He goes, you live at 2902? I said, yeah. Now, he's a little older than me, and he's lived there his whole life.
Yeah.
And he said, man, you don't know what happened in your house? I said, no, I don't know what happened in my house. He said, well, do you know the Dean family? It's a Dean family that had like 7 kids, and they're in public school, so I didn't really interact with them, but I knew who they were. And he goes, yeah, they lived in your house before you did, and they moved out after 33 days. I said, what do you mean? He said, they hated it. They walked in, there was dark brown stains all over the floor, and they hated being there. And I said, oh, really? I said, well, what happened? He said, well, you don't know what happened in that house, do you? I said, no. He said, there was a family before them called the Adams, and Mr. Adams was a police officer. He had a gun. He came home drunk one night, started a fight with his wife. The dog came at him. He shoots the freaking dog, kills it, and then pulls the trigger and kills his wife. And the little boy, Daniel, runs down the steps out the door and says he did it. He did it. He finally killed my mom. So I'm like, oh, wow. So I said, okay, do you mind if I go to the police department and find out if any of this is true? And I did. I went to the police department, and they said, we can't give you the details if you're not a family, but yes, there was a murder in your house and a dog. And so I knew that it happened. So then as I've gotten a chance to reflect over the years, I realized that woman wasn't ever going to hurt me. She heard my parents fighting, and I had a dog. My dad had a gun. He's a sheriff. He was drunk. It was the same situation as when she lost her life.
Yeah.
And that woman was very calmly going just past me to go down the steps to stop the fighting somehow. I guess that's all. She was trying to save my family, so the same thing didn't happen again. It took me a while to put it all together, but by her going down and doing that, I guess she really felt like she could stop the same thing from happening.
Yeah.
Then when I was drunk, which was the same problem she had with her husband who shot her, she wasn't happy that I'm 18 and I'm drinking.
No.
So when I went up the steps that time, she couldn't contain her anger and came right down at me, through me. I went through it. She didn't go through me. I don't know. We went through each other. But so I realized that this woman just didn't want people drinking in the house, and that she lost her dog and she lost her life and her little boy. I don't know what happened to Danny Adams, but that's the truth of the whole story. I sat there and for years realized that that woman and that dog were just victims, and that their spirits, I guess, were just locked in this tragic moment in the house. And when the situations were right and everything lined up, it's like a stamp on time. That energy can just transfer back into that moment again.
Yeah.
So everything was perfect. And here, and in the book that I read, it said most people who experience ghosts are the person in the family going through puberty. Now, I'm the oldest because there's a lot of energy in your body when you're going through puberty.
Yeah.
And that energy, they say, can draw the other energy from, I guess, the other side or wherever ghosts come from. But this is a true story. I saw the woman, I saw the dog, I saw the woman twice and the dog once, and then I felt the tap on the shoulder. And all that is true. And it could have just been my imagination until I went to the police department and found out that a woman was shot in my house and a dog. And that's why my dad got it for $19,000. The family that bought it for $34,000 and moved out. Then then they couldn't sell the house because the bloodstains were still on the floor, and the family tried to cover it with rugs, and it was too creepy and too spooky. It just had happened.
And I mean, of course, with your father being a sheriff, he's probably used to seeing the police stains anyways.
Yeah, he don't care.
Yeah,
he didn't care. He got $19,000 for a house, and he doesn't believe in ghosts. What does he care? He's like, I don't give it. My dad is very practical and he's not a dreamer. He's like a straight down the line kind of guy. But he did have a gun. We did have a dog. He was drinking. He came home and they were fighting. And I had to put it together. I'm like, well, that woman must have just simply been coming down to stop that from happening again.
Yeah.
Because my dad did not kill my mom and he did not shoot the dog. And then he apologized later about the fight. My dad's a really good guy. I just, at this point in his life, he's got, a baby on the way, or he's got 3 kids and he's drinking and he's working.
Stress.
Yeah, man, that's tough. And he insisted that he put us all through Catholic school because he got such a good deal in the house. He could afford our tuition. So I got to go to St. Tim's. My other 2 brothers, they did too. They never really made it through past high school. They just took a different path in life. I went off to so many years and years of education, but my dad's a really good guy. It's just that people, they get in fights and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But the truth is, when I found out from the policeman that it all happened, I realized that was a blessing, really. It was a ghost, but it wasn't a bad ghost or a malevolent ghost.
Yeah, it was just kind of trying to look out for you to prevent.
But that story's true, and every word of it, I swear, I remember it as if it was yesterday. Now I'm 55. It started when I was 9 years old, but I'll never forget that woman walking down my hallway.
I'm just curious.
Because I rubbed my eyes, Ocho. I rubbed my eyes thinking I can't be seeing this. And when I took them away, she was closer and closer and closer.
Especially when you're that young and it's that late at night, you're kind of thinking, oh, well, maybe I'm just not fully awake yet.
And I was terrified from the fight that I'm listening to.
Yes, exactly.
So I snuck to the top of the steps without turning on the hallway light because then they would know I was up. So I just sit there and listen to them curse and throw pots and pans. And I never heard my parents fight like this before. They probably did, but I never heard it. So this is the first time. So all my emotions were up. Plus, I'm 9 years old. I'm just entering the cusp of puberty. So there was probably just enough energy and trauma in the air for this woman to just materialize and just walk down my hallway. And if I didn't see that dog in the hall, I would have never known about the dog until I found out from Glitty, the guy in the bar, what exactly happened, the details of what happened. Well, and so he asked me, he's like, well, have you seen anything in the house? I said, yeah, I've seen things. I've seen a woman twice. I've seen a dog. I got tapped on the shoulder. I'm like, it's not cool there, man. And then when I went to the police and found out that it was true, I realized that woman was really kind and she lost her life and her dog. And what she was trying to do was save my family in the same house.
But
all right, well, thank you.
I know you've got an art class to go to tonight. So again, I do want to thank you for coming back on. To everybody watching this, I hope you enjoyed the rest of this episode on Halloweentown that we're doing.
Halloweentown.
I'm probably going to edit this interview down a little bit to fit it in with the podcast.
Sure, of course.
But I will be releasing this full interview for free on our Patreon page. So if anyone wants to watch the full interview that we did with Timmy today, you can go to patreon.com/Ocho and Ortiz Disney Pod. You don't even have to pay to subscribe. We're going to be releasing this one for free. So
trick or treat. It's a Halloween gift. Yay.
Exactly. It's a Halloween / early Christmas gift. So
yeah, there you go. Well, we'll be back on at Christmas. We'll have more stories at Christmas.
And Timmy, again, thank you so much for coming.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. You're as far as gentlemen go, you're an ace, man. I mean that. I'm not just saying that. I mean it. You're one of the nicest guys.
I don't really take compliments well, but I appreciate it.
And Josh too. I don't want to go without saying it. Josh is just the nicest guy, man.
And we're back. So hopefully everybody enjoyed those ghost stories from Timmy. And we're hoping to get Timmy back on the show as a guest in the next couple of weeks, because Josh, you are going down to Disney World for its 50th anniversary. And Timmy will be there as well. It's also going to be Timmy's birthday on October 25th. So once you're back and once Timmy's back from Disney World, we want to try to get everybody on to talk about their experiences and talk about the 50th anniversary of Disney World. So hopefully we can get that going. But again, hopefully you enjoyed those ghost stories. And now let's get into our Halloween feature, Halloweentown. Josh, this was your pick. So why don't you get us going?
All right. Let's talk about the greatest DCOM ever made.
Fuck no.
Oh, okay. So we're talking about Halloweentown today. This is a nostalgic, classic Halloween movie that I've watched every year since it has come out.
If by classic you mean a piece of shit movie, then yes, you are absolutely correct. It is a classic.
I mean a classic. It literally starts with Dave saying, "I hate this movie." No, so the movie starts with they're at their house. And you can see the younger sister, Sophie, looking out the window and saying someone's coming. And it pans over to Marnie, who's the main character, arguing with her mother because she wants to go out trick-or-treating for Halloween. And her mom says, no, they've never been allowed to do it. And, in walks the little brother at one point. I'm just saying that just because, there's a whole bunch of shit from what Dave says here on his in the text messages that, oh, fuck, I forgot the stupid nerdy brother.
Whose name is Dylan, by the way.
Dylan. It literally says, the brother in this movie looks like the cousin from the first Home Alone that wets the bed. I hate them both. God, I hate this kid. I want to break his glasses and punch him in the face.
Tell me I'm wrong, though. Does that kid not look like the cousin from Home Alone that wets the bed? I can't even remember that kid's name. I'm going to have to look it up on IMDb.
A little bit. But yeah, so Marnie wants to go trick-or-treating. Her mom says no, tells her, there's just some things she doesn't understand or know about Halloween. And her friends try to convince her mom as well, because they're like, oh yeah, Marnie's great for this. She loves Halloween. She loves all this spooky, crazy shit, So
Fuller. He looks like Fuller from Home Alone.
Yes. Anyways, from Home Alone. Oh yeah, from Home Alone. Yeah.
Yeah, Dylan looks like Fuller from Home Alone, and I want to punch them both in the face. Fuck them both. Hate those kids.
Yeah. So after, her friends leave and stuff, Marnie's still pissed off and, starts sulking or whatever. And then they go to have dinner, and Sophie tries to get a cookie, and her mom says, no, you can have it after dinner. And so she turns around. She's like, I really want that cookie. And the cookie starts floating to her, but the kids don't know that they have powers. So her mom just kind of snatches it out of the air. And that's when the grandma Aggie walks in, who was played by Debbie Reynolds. Yeah, you said some fucked up shit then, didn't you?
Well, no. I said some fucked up shit later about Debbie Reynolds. But
yeah.
To be fair, I did say that I wanted to bang the mom from this movie.
Yeah,
so
that is
everybody in this movie.
That is Judith Hoag, who plays the mom.
She also played April O'Neil in the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie in 1990.
Yeah, I was getting to that. I was yawning.
Yeah, you were mid yawn, so I figured I'd just step up and
Fair enough. Fair enough. So the grandma walks in and the kids go crazy, and that's when you get the line from Sophie where she says, "How come you've been gone so long, Grandma?" And that's when you get the text from Dave, "Probably because you kids are annoying little pricks." Yep. But so then she says she brings some gifts for them. So she gets her bag and she opens it up. There's a whole bunch of candy and different things like a skeleton, some costumes, toys, this and that. And that's when Dylan says, "This bag defies logic," and Dave responds as, "So does this fucking movie, kid. Gotta hate these kids, especially the boy and his shit-eating grin." So then they have dinner and they're about to go to sleep after that, and they want their grandmother to read them a story. And so she says okay, and they're like, "Oh, is this a story that you've seen before, or that you know?" And she says no. She pulls out a book and it's about Halloweentown. So they're going through the book, and through the book they see a picture of a witch on a broom that looks like Marnie. And they keep talking about that, and then the mom gets pissed off basically and says, "Mother, go downstairs. I'm gonna put Dylan to bed. Then we're gonna talk." They go downstairs. Then they start arguing about Marnie because it's Marnie's 13th Halloween, and by the 13th Halloween, she's supposed to have completed her training to become a witch, but she hasn't even started it. And if she doesn't start her training by the end of Halloween, then she will lose her powers forever. That's what her mom wants. I'm seeing if there's anything about what Dave wrote. I don't think so, to do with that particular part. Yeah. So
I'm going through our text messages trying to find my commentary from last year. I'm on my commentary from Hocus Pocus though, and it's just as good. I swear to God, if this movie sucks, you're losing picking privileges until.
Yeah, there's a couple good ones here from Dave. Let's see, what is this one? "Oh my God, he needs to shut the fuck up."
In reference to Dylan.
And then this is a line from Dylan who says, "We have an impressionable young mind here. Shut up, you fucking dolt." Who the fuck wrote this dumbass script? Marnie says, "There's nothing special about me." Dave says, "Your acting is special, Marnie, especially awful." Fuck this film. Again, I'd still bang the mom.
I just wanted to get that in there and drive that point home.
Yeah. So Marnie overhears them arguing, Aggie and Gwen, the mom and grandmother. And one second. So they're arguing, and she's also saying, Agatha's also saying that she needs help back home. So that's why she came.
Wait. I want to read the text message exchange from last year before we go any further. So here were my thoughts last year. Okay. I think this was pretty much at the beginning of the movie. As soon as it started, I wrote, "Also, I already hate this movie." You responded with, "Dude, this is a classic, like absolute classic. My favorite movie. Legit watch all of them every October." And I said, I responded with, "I want to punch these kids, and the script is awful."
A lot of the same things that you said so far.
You responded with, "I want to punch you, LOL." And then I said, I guess this was fairly early on in the movie. I said, "Oh, for fuck's sakes, the power is gonna rest with the youngest child, isn't it? She's gonna fucking save the town, isn't she?" And then you said, "Well, Dave, at least I didn't give you a musical, LOL. How are you still bashing this movie?" And to which I responded, "Because it's still terrible. Just because something isn't a musical doesn't make it immune to being terrible. For example, the Leafs aren't a musical, but they're still terrible."
Oh my God.
You responded with, "No, Dave, this is a classic." And I said, "Classically bad." And you said, "No, just no. How dare you talk bad about Halloweentown?" To which I said, "How dare a movie this bad got made?" And that's the point where you said, there are 3 sequels. And I said, well, that's unfortunate. The last one isn't the greatest, I'll admit, but 2 and 3 are still good. And I'm like, I don't think I can finish this one. Seriously, fuck this. If Maddie wants to stay in Halloweentown, her mom should let her. She's got 2 other kids. Losing one won't make a difference. To which you corrected me and said, Marnie. And I said, okay, Marty. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'd rather be watching Descendants. Fuck this movie. This movie needs to be over. Even the people in the town don't really give a shit as to what's going on. To which you responded, I showed Ava what you said. Sorry, I showed Ava what you said, and she says she will fight you, bruh. And I said, I would say bring it, but that piece of shit movie isn't worth the energy I'd have to expand fighting over it. I also may change the topic today and postpone Halloweentown to next week. And yeah, that was basically the Halloweentown conversation from last year. I really disliked this movie.
Yeah.
I think my favorite comment from that, though, was seriously, fuck this. If Maddie wants to stay in Halloweentown, her mom should let her. She's got 2 other kids. Losing one won't make a difference.
Oh my God.
Oh man, that brought back some memories. I'm sorry. So I think we were at the part where grandma was reading the book to the kids.
No, we're past that. The grandmother's asking the mom for help back in Halloweentown because she said there's something going on. There's something evil happening. She needs her help. She needs another Cromwell witch. And Gwen says no, she can't go. So Agatha leaves to go catch the bus because there's a bus that goes from the mortal world to Halloweentown, but that bus is only good on Halloween day in the mortal world, right? So as Agatha is leaving, Marnie runs upstairs, wakes up Dylan, tells him what's going on. Dylan thinks she's going crazy, so she gets dressed and decides to go follow her grandmother so she can help her. Dylan decides to go with him, and she's like, what do you mean? You can't come with me. He's like, and this is where he says, I'm the man of the house. I'm gonna keep an eye on you. No, you say
he says that as they're walking down the street toward chasing after her to catch the bus.
Yeah, that's what I said. They're on their way to go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm like they're going to go catch up to their grandmother, and he says, "Yeah, I'm the man of the house. I'm gonna keep an eye on you." And you say, "You're 7. Shut the fuck up." Yep. So they hop. The bus comes, and the grandmother gets on. They decide to jump on the back of the bus, and they see a whole bunch of different monsters, vampires, witches, everything, right? All on the bus, and they don't know what's going on. But then the bus zooms off and goes to the other world of Halloweentown. They get off the bus. They turn around and they see Sophie there, and this is where we get. So Sophie says, I wanted to come help grandmother fight the bad thing. I snuck on the bus with you guys. And this is where Dave says, seriously, how does this fucking 4-year-old get on the bus undetected by her siblings when they snuck on the back of the bus and shut the door?
Yeah.
Fuck this movie.
And mind you, all this is in all caps. So seriously, how does the fucking 4-year-old get on the bus undetected by her siblings when they snuck onto the back of the bus and shut the door? Fuck this movie.
Yeah. So they get off the bus, and then that's when again they see her. And then
I would also like to point out that meanwhile, as I'm texting Josh, I'm also bashing this movie on Twitter, and we're gonna get to that a little bit later on.
Wait, did you send out tweets as well or no?
I was sending out tweets as well, and I
need to go look at these now. Anyways, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, so that's when Calabar, the mayor, shows up, says, I'm the mayor. I don't know you 3. I'm supposed to know everyone. And she says that Marnie says that they're Aggie Cromwell's grandchildren. So then he's like, okay, yeah, I can help you. And he puts them in the cab with Benny, who's a skeleton, and tells very bad jokes. And then
The
they
rest
go
of
up
the movie, it's bad.
they get up to the grandmother's house, and the gate's locked, but Sophie uses her magic and turns the lock into a frog. And as they get to the house, Aggie's like, someone's coming, goes to open the door, and it sees that it's the kids. So she's like, oh my god, what are you guys doing here? And they're like, oh, we came to help you fight the bad thing. Hang on, where is it?
Sorry, Josh is going through my tweets right now to see.
No, I'm going through your text messages. They said that they came to fight the bad thing, and Marnie says, you said you needed another Cromwell witch. That could be me. And Dave responds, no, fuck off. You just found out you were a witch 5 minutes ago. Shut up. But yeah, so they're there, and they help her make the potion, but it doesn't work because she said she's doing it from a box, and she says it's better if you make it from scratch. So that's when they decide to go into town to get all the ingredients that they need, and they run into Calabar again, and she's trying to tell Calabar something wrong is happening.
Because as they're going into the shop, she runs into her friend, I don't know, Helen, Agnes, I don't give a fuck what the name,
Harriet,
whatever. and you see like her face is completely deformed from what it looked like earlier when the grandmother had been talking to her when she first got off the bus. So yeah, that's when she runs into the mayor and she lets him know, hey, there is something going on. Basically, I spoke to you about this a couple of days ago and you didn't believe me. Well, now here's proof. It happened to Agnes or Harriet or Henrietta or whatever the fuck her name was. And and so that's just another person that it's happened to. And the mayor basically says, I'll look into it. Just give me like 2 days.
Yeah. So then they start going around, and Marnie sees brooms. So she starts walking over to the brooms, and then she buys, her grandmother buys her one. They start to fly around on the broom, and when they get off, Sophie's like, oh, it's my turn. And that's when the mom shows up and is like, nope, I can't believe you brought them here. And she's like, well, they came to see me. And she's like, no, you're not staying, because Marnie's saying, I'm going to stay to help grandmother. And that's probably where we got that text message from Dave last year that said, if Marnie wants to stay, just let her. She's got 2 other kids.
I think that's exactly the part where it happened. Just take 2 other kids home. We got 2 on them.
Yeah. So then after that, they go to leave, but there's trouble with the bus. It's broken down. So she decides to go, or Dylan brings up, oh, maybe the mayor can help. So they go see the mayor, who's Calabar, who's in love with Gwen, the mom.
I mean, so am I. It's the only person in this movie I can tolerate.
Yeah. And then Calabar leaves to go deal with something else, and they see Agatha walking with Luke, who's like the local punk kid there, and they decide to go help her. And as they're all walking after grandmother, that's when that big giant fucking they're inside the theater, and that's where all of her friends and other people who live in Halloweentown are all frozen.
the other townspeople.
Yeah.
And that's when this like big ghost floaty skeleton fucking thing appears. We don't know who exactly it is yet. We will find out later, but basically tells Agatha Christie, Murder, She Wrote. I don't fucking know the name of the grandma. So basically tells her that they're fine. They're still alive. They've just been frozen in time.
Yeah. And then as she's arguing with him, he tries to, tries to hit her with a spell to put her to sleep as well. And that's when the kids and Gwen walk in, and Gwen tries to use her powers on Luke, but she hasn't used them in a long time, that they didn't work properly. She said,
did you cover, I mean, I know you covered Marnie getting the broom. Did you cover her using the broom with her grandmother?
Yeah, I said she went flying and then she came down, and that's when Sophie shows up.
Yeah, so just before that, as they're walking, they're walking, and then that's when I said, no, seriously, fuck this kid, referring to Dylan and his shit-eating grin. Someone needs to punch him in the face. And you wrote, you good, LMAO? And I said, no, I am not. This movie is ruining me. Oh God, the awful green screen effects. This is when Marnie and Agatha Christie are flying around on the broom. The awful green screen effects. So fucking bad. Jesus Christ. Is Debbie Reynolds dead? She should be for being in this awful movie. Marnie is such a stuck-up, spoiled brat. God, this movie is bad. Seriously, fuck this movie. Good Lord, there's still 25 minutes left.
Yeah, I know. When you said that, I was like, wait, how did you get to only 20 minutes left or 25 minutes left? Like, because I started about 15 minutes after you, and even then I paused it because I was watching TikToks for about half an hour, and then I continued to watch it. And then when you said like I have 25 minutes, I'm like, what the fuck? I only have 15. How did I catch up?
Well, I paused to get dinner, and then I also paused because I was starting fights about this on Twitter, which
Yeah,
again we'll get to after the review. We'll get to the stuff I said on Twitter afterwards. And once again, I forgot to switch the screen over, the back screen over.
There we go. There we go. Look at
here's
that.
the movie that's
fantastic.
We're only like half an hour into this.
It's a fantastic movie. Anyways,
It's not.
So they're there, and then the evil thing hits Gwen with the little magic thing, that the spell that makes her go to sleep. Then he also hits the grandma.
Yeah,
and
he was aiming for the grandma originally, and then Gwen like stepped
pushed her out of the way.
Yeah, but that didn't work because he still got grandma. So fuck you, Agatha Christie.
So then the kids decide to run out the door, and that's in the light, which I don't understand how the fuck that worked. Doesn't make any sense looking back. But anyways,
doesn't make
shut
sense,
up,
Josh.
Anyways,
he
can't the bad thing can't be in the like the sunlight and everything. So they run away, and they go back to. Did they go back to the house yet? No. They ran away. And they decide to get the rest of the ingredients
they're getting
that
the
they
recipes.
needed.
So they're like getting hair from a werewolf, sweat from a ghost, fang from a vampire.
Yep. So they get all those ingredients, and then they're about to go back to the house.
And this is the part in the movie that I complained to you about last year, because this is where we see more and more townspeople and just how god awful the makeup and everything for this movie is. And this is when I started complaining to you last year, and I couldn't find it in the text messages, unfortunately. But this is where I started complaining to you about how god awful the special effects and the makeup was, and like because I think I complained about this to you while I was watching Hocus Pocus. But I'm like, why is the effects on this movie in 1998 so and the makeup so bad compared to movies that were made in like 1993? And you were like, Dave, it's a DCOM, like they're not spending as much money as they would on a theatrical movie. I'm like, that's no excuse. Like, fucking stop making excuses. It's awful. It's cheap. Fuck this movie.
Exactly. Anyways, so they get all the ingredients that they need, go back to the house and make the brew, and Marnie can't remember the spell to light it, but Sophie remembers it because she thought it was pretty and made a little song or rhyme about it, and the two of them tried and they got it to work. Now they rush back to their grandmother and mom, Dylan waves the wand around, doesn't work. I'm surprised Dave didn't say any bullshit about that.
I think I was going on about. I think this is where the Twitter fight like really kicked off, and I was more invested in the Twitter fight, and from the point where they left the movie theater on, like the last part of that movie, I was just getting into Twitter arguments, so I really wasn't watching the movie. So there was like really no responses from me to you at that point.
Fair enough. So it won't work, and then Marnie tries to figure out what to do, and she's like, "Oh, do you remember what grandmother said? It's mortal see, mortal do. If it's dark on Halloween, what do we do?"
Did you? Sorry, I may have missed it, but did you bring up the part where the skeleton taxi driver runs into them again and tries to pick them up, and then they become skeptical because, well, how did they know that their mother was in town? Because he had known that their mother had come into town. And so they were skeptical, and then he tries to kidnap the kid Dylan, which I wish he would have, because fuck that kid. Somebody needs to beat the shit out of that kid. Not that I'm condoning violence against children. I'm condoning violence against shitty characters. All right, not against children. I don't want the actual actor to have any harm come to him or any real children. I'm just saying, in the context of this movie, this character is awful and needs to be beaten. But that's terrible. Fuck.
Well, guess what, Dave? He actually makes it to all 4 movies.
He tries to kidnap Dylan, and that's when what's the youngest kid's name? Dora the Explorer. So
come on, Sophie.
Sophia the First. So Sophie sees a dog on a leash, and she unleashes the dog so the dog can attack the skeleton taxi driver and free her brother. So yeah. I mean, that is one thing from the movie that I was paying attention to and remembered.
Yeah. So after that, they went to the house, made the thing, what I already said, and now what Marnie says is, remember what Grandma said, what mortal see, mortal do. So when it's dark on Halloween, where do they put the candle? Inside the pumpkin. So as you can see in the picture there behind Dave, there's that giant pumpkin that sits in the town, in like the middle of town square, and it's been dark. So what they do is they take the Merlin's talisman to go put it there. And that's when Luke sees them and stops and says, it's a trap. Don't do it. And then it goes all dark, and out comes the bad creature, the bad guy. And he's trying to get the rest of the citizens of Halloweentown to join him. Too long have they been cast away to this Halloweentown. He wants to go to the mortal world and take it back over. And then he reveals himself to be the Mayor Calabar. So Luke decides to help Marnie, and he takes her cloak and starts walking through the crowd as he goes one way, she goes towards the jack-o'-lantern. And Calabar is like, "Oh, young Cromwell, you think you could hide?" And then he jumps down and hits Luke in the back with the same spell that puts him to sleep. Turns around and turns him over, realizes that it's Luke, and Luke's like, "Gotcha," or "Fooled you," or whatever. And then he turns and he sees Marnie opening up the pumpkin, going to put it in, but he hits her with like 4 of those fucking blasts. And she basically falls asleep, but she's half asleep. She's not fully under the spell yet, and she lets go of the talisman, and it falls straight into where it's supposed to be, because she's remembering something that her grandmother said, that magic is simple. If you want something, just let yourself have it. And she lets it go. Thing goes off. Everybody comes back to life. Aggie and Gwen come running, and they find them. And Marnie tells them that it was Calabar. He's been him all along. And Calabar is like, "Oh, Gwen, you could have had me. You could have lived. You could have ruled and be my queen, but you chose a mortal." And that's when Gwen or Aggie what's his name? Calabar takes the talisman out of the pumpkin, and I always find this so funny that Aggie pulls out this little like chicken bone with a rattle on it and starts shaking it and starts to chant something. And he's like, "Your powers are no match for me." So then Marnie's like, "Oh," Dylan says something about how he wants to like punch him in the face or whatever. And he looks down and he can see like electricity, but it's really just magic, right? And he doesn't want to believe that he's the like a warlock now. And Marnie's like, "Listen," he's like, "You better pass back the talisman, or you're gonna be in big trouble." He's like, "You foolish kid. Your powers are no match for mine." And she's like, "Yeah, but maybe not mine. But what about my grandmother's, my mother's, mine, my sister's, and my brother's could probably do it." So then they all start holding hands and like humming and stuff. And basically, Calabar gets defeated by getting sucked into the goddamn fucking talisman. And that's the end of Calabar. And it goes straight to Aggie's hand. She goes, puts it back into the jack-o'-lantern, and the town is saved by everybody, by the kids and everyone. Dave's favorite. The end of it is basically Gwen saying, "Oh, you're really good with the kids. I could really use you." And Aggie's like, "I can't cross over, only on Halloween." She's like, "Well, then you're gonna have to come live with us." So they go live with her. Luke is the one driving Luke gets everybody to get back on the bus, and he drives the bus back to the mortal world, takes them there, and that's the end of the movie. Go ahead, Dave.
Fuck this movie. So during this movie, as I said, I was I was tweeting. I was tweeting out as well as messaging you. So at one point I wrote Halloweentown is such a god awful movie. Seriously, fuck this movie. Like I said, this was made in 1998, but you could have spent a little bit more effort on special effects, set designs, and makeup. And I did get some responses. I got 12 likes on the fact that I said Halloweentown is such a god awful movie. I had somebody respond and say, I don't know what that is, and I refuse to have it in my house, which I applaud. Very, very wise choice. Somebody else wrote, Matt, my daughters liked it during their family channel watching days. Same for Girl versus Monster.
That one's not bad either.
I was just about to say we're not going to watch that because it sounds awful. Somebody else wrote, and I don't want to give anybody's names away without asking for their permission. So that's why I'm not reading names. But somebody else wrote, always think someone is talking about Nightmare Before Christmas and get ready to take up arms, then realize that other movie exists. Just co-opting the name makes it bad. So I'm assuming that they don't like Halloweentown.
I'm surprised you didn't start talking shit about Nightmare Before Christmas to them about that, because I know how much you don't like that movie either.
Well, it's just that it's boring. Like every time I've tried to watch that movie, and it's been about 3 or 4 times, I just fall asleep after about 20 minutes, half an hour.
It's a good movie, man. This is Halloween. This is Halloween. Halloween.
Another comment said, at first I read this as Halloween is awful, the film with Michael Myers, and I was about to throw hands. But no, it wasn't about the Michael Myers Halloween movie. So you can rest assured that I was talking about Halloweentown. My roommate made me watch it a few years ago, and I have never forgiven her. To which I responded, I'm being made to watch it for a podcast review. I'm not happy. So this one was a whole interaction between me and this Twitter user. I'm not saying I had the refined taste of a film critic as a child, but I'm pretty sure even I would have found the thing incredibly corny, that gave me a good laugh. And I responded with, it's so bad. And the tweeter I was interacting with at it, it's child acting dialed up to 1,000. To which I responded, are we really going to call it acting? Because that's not what I would call it. And then she responded with, I'm prepared to go with line delivering. I wrote, LOL, I like that. Somebody else sent a GIF saying, well, that's absolutely not true. To which I responded, it absolutely 100% is true. And then somebody else responded with a GIF of Dwight Schrute from The Office saying, it is true. But my friend Mur, and I'm only going to read her name out because I told her I was going to read her comments on air. She wrote, respectfully, you're very wrong. And so Mur is part of a group chat with me and a bunch of other Blue Jays fans. And so she posted her tweet in the group chat and tried to get the other members in the group chat to attack me. And she's like, attack that bozo. And that started a whole war in this Blue Jays group chat that I'm in. Some people taking my side, some people not. Shout out to Tyler, who also co-hosts Aces on Bases with me, which is my baseball podcast. Tyler actually came to my defense about it being an awful movie. And so, anyways, eventually I got kicked out of the group chat, and then I got added back into the group chat. And once I got added back into the group chat, I kicked Mur out of the group chat, and then she got added back in. And then one of the other members of the group chat piped in and said, we should kick him again. And so I said, well, before you do that, you should eat this. And then I kicked him out of the group chat. So it just became a huge fun fight on Twitter, which I really enjoyed. So thank you for starting that, Mur. Greatly appreciate it. But yeah, this movie was just fantastically awful. I think somewhere along the line, somebody wrote that the movie was a 5 out of 10, to which I responded with, yeah, a negative 5 out of 10. But to be fair, yeah, this movie is much worse than a negative 5 out of 10. There is no amount of negative stars that I could give this movie to do it justice on how bad it is. So negative infinity. I can't even rate this movie because it was just so horrendously bad. This is the worst DCOM movie that we have watched to date. This is worse than The Descendants. You know what? High School Musical is pretty bad too, but I'm not going to rank it compared to High School Musical because they're equally bad. They're equally bad. This is far worse than Hocus Pocus, which had that perverted little fucking sister that was always talking about how her brother wanted to see his friend's boobs and shit, and everyone was talking about how he was a virgin, and that movie was just obsessed with sex. And this movie was far worse than that. I think my texts sum up my feeling of this movie. I can't do enough justice to how bad I feel this movie truly is. This has got to go down in history as one of the worst movies ever made. Like, I mean, Paris Hilton did a critically panned, critically awful movie that nobody can even remember the title of.
And
And
Glass House?
no, I can't. I would have to look it up on IMDb. But I would, and I haven't even watched that movie, but I would say that this is probably even worse than
House of Wax is what it's called.
No, it wasn't the horror one. She did another one. I'm gonna look it up before I get back on my rant. So I'll let you have your say on this movie while I look up the title of this Paris Hilton one that I can't think of.
The Hottie and the Naughty?
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. But yeah, so I know you love this movie. So why don't you give us your final thoughts and give us your rating for it, Josh?
I love this movie. It's one of my favorites. It's been one of my favorites since it came out. Again, I was 8 years old when this movie came out. I've always loved them. And whenever they premiered a new one, I was right there watching it on premiere night. Always loved it. And since they've all come out, I've watched every single one of them, even the bad one, the last one. I still watch them every Halloween or every October in general, because these are my favorite movies. When Disney Plus was announced, I said Halloweentown is the first thing I'm gonna fucking watch. I don't even care. Again, this is one of my favorite things to watch. DCOMs, I love them as well. Love this movie. It is fantastic, and I'm gonna say this is an 8.5 out of 10.
This movie is I can't. No, I just I can't. I can't. I don't want to have to. I don't want to have anything to do with this movie or this franchise ever again. I'm done with Halloweentown. Fuck this film. Fuck
until Halloweentown 2.
Fuck all of the people in this movie except the mom. She was cool. She gets a pass. Everybody else involved in this movie, acting wise, directing wise, script writing wise, makeup, set design. Fuck them all. And yeah, so at least hopefully people enjoyed us talking about it, and hopefully people enjoyed hearing Timmy Britt's ghost stories. So I do want to thank Timmy Britt once again for coming on and providing us with some entertaining ghost stories. And like I said at the beginning of the show, hopefully we're going to have Timmy Britt back on in a couple of weeks once you get back from Disney World, once he gets back from Disney World. And hopefully we'll be able to talk to him about the 50th anniversary and both of your experiences down there during that. And yeah, again, you can find us on the social medias. You can find us on Twitter at Ocho Ortiz Disney, Instagram at Ocho and Ortiz Disney Pod, and Facebook.com/Ocho and Ortiz Disney Pod. You can find us on most major podcasting platforms. We are available on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and Podbean. Ocho and Ortiz DisneyPod.podbean.com. You can help support the show by going to Spring, link in the description below, or shop.spreadshirt.com/Ocho and Ortiz Disney Pod, or by becoming our patron on Patreon, patreon.com/Ocho and Ortiz Disney Pod. I am going to post the Timmy Britt's ghost stories as its own separate entity on Patreon as well. and we'll make that a free exclusive. So you won't even have to pay to listen to that. So if you want to just hear Timmy's ghost stories, you can go to our Patreon page and hear it there for free without hearing the rest of this episode, or just to re-listen to his stories if you want to re-listen to his ghost stories. And of course, we're also on YouTube, so be sure you're watching us there. Just search for Ocho and Ortiz Disney Podcast. Josh, any final words this week before we go?
Thanks everyone for listening. Happy Halloween. We will talk to you guys soon.
Yes. Happy Halloween. And once again, happy belated Thanksgiving to our Canadian friends, and happy early Thanksgiving to our American friends. And happy belated birthday to Timmy Britt, who will be celebrating his birthday while he's down at Disney World celebrating the 50th anniversary of Disney World. His birthday was on October 25th. So happy belated birthday to Timmy. And having said that, guys, as always, whether you're watching or listening to this in the morning, the afternoon, the evening, whatever time of day it is, where you are, when you're watching or listening to this, we appreciate you watching or listening to this. We thank you for watching or listening to this. And we will talk to you guys again very, very soon. Bye-bye.
Later.